WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
This is Fred Lowry at Lowry Drug. We now have our own brand of full-spectrum hemp extract, also known as CBD oil. I personally manage this product as it was grown on my farm here in Iredell County.
All right,
it was then processed and bottled here in Statesville. This is a true herbal extract with all the medicinal components intact. A product you can trust to be authentic. And since there is no wholesaler, it's at a price you can afford.
Thank you, sir.
Try it at Lowry Drug on Hartness Road in Statesville.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC. Thought-provoking conversations and informed perspectives.
It's meant for everyday people to understand, and you don't have to stress about technical terms and stuff. They just say it like a real person.
WSIC News Talk Now.
Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. 4 o'clock hour. If you're a 9 to 5er, you got 53 minutes, 25 seconds until we hit that 5 o'clock bell. And I appreciate so much you spending that time with us here on Dollars and Cents as we're giving attention to, and perhaps we're even sparking some conversation regarding items of financial and economic importance. Now, you know, as a previous listener to Dollars and Cents, we're talking on all range of subjects. I'm going to be doing it again here today. We're even starting to creep into earnings season. I know it seems like every other week. I'm telling you that, but it's real. We got earnings season here coming upon us. Banks doing their earnings reports. Got a number of other entities as well we're going to be talking about. But in doing so, we're going to be looking at things sometimes in a positive light, sometimes in a negative light. But nothing that we're talking about here is intended as a specific recommendation for you, meaning that everybody's situation is unique. Everybody has their own set of circumstances. We strongly, strongly recommend that you reach out to your tax advisor, to your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group, love to hear from you. Love to chat about your particular financial situation, your journey, as it were, and to see if there are ways in which we might be able to be helpful to you. Online, you can find us at northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, Main like the street, financial.com. You can leave us an email address, a phone number. Let us know the most preferred and desirable ways for us to contact you, again, at northmainfinancial.com. You're also welcome to call us here in the studio as well. Now, I can't promise I'm going to get to your particular subject in today's show. I know I say that. I just like to caveat that. I'm going to do my very best if you call in with a particular question or subject matter you'd like us to touch on here. But if I don't get it today, I promise I'll get it in next week's show. Promise that I'll do that. 844-STUDIO-4, 844-788-3464 here in the studio, 844-788-3464 here at the studio, here at WSIC. You got a question on some things you're seeing headline-wise, perhaps some things that are, maybe you're thinking about the election. Probably the chances are reasonably good that we're going to be talking about the election and its effect on the markets here again today. But again, in doing so, happy to chat about what your particular situation may be. Happy to give some attention and thought to that. And again, if I can't squeeze it in today, guaranteed to get it in next week. All right, let's get going here. What's hot? I mean, there's a lot. Man, there's a lot going on. This first company I'm going to talk about, though, I don't know if I can put them in the hot category. Let me just say challenging. All right, that was a pregnant pause there for all of you literary folks who are listening. The company I'm going to be talking about here first as we're kicking off the What's Hot segment, and I've talked about them several times here over the last number of weeks. Unfortunately, going through some very, very challenging circumstances from a business standpoint. One of the largest employers out there, though, definitely have to talk about them, and that's Boeing. Boeing, ticker symbol Bravo Alpha, BA, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Some additional announcements that came out from Boeing here over the last couple of weeks. And the biggest one, at least I should say the biggest one in my world, relative to the financial viability aspect of things, had to do with an announcement that they made just yesterday. And it has to do with raising additional capital. Now, you may hear that and say, okay, well, they need some more money, so they're going to raise some capital. What's the big deal about that? Well, a couple of big things in my end of the universe. First has to do with the dollar amount that they mentioned, $25 billion with a B, $25 billion that they're looking to raise here over the next 3 years. That's a lot of money, folks. That is a tremendous amount of money, especially relative to the market capitalization for Boeing. That is a lot, especially when I'm looking at that they already have between $55 and $60 billion in debt, meaning that already debt outstanding. I'm not talking about their capital stock. I'm talking about their debt. between $55 and $60 billion already. Looking to make it a combination of equity and debt, including a $10 billion line of credit that's out there. They're looking for some financial flexibility. Now, if you haven't been following the news, you haven't been watching what's been happening to Boeing here over the last couple of months, let me give you a real quick primer on where things have been. Unfortunately, one of their largest unions, I believe it is their largest union, about 33,000 engineers on strike. And that strike's now getting into the second month of things, costing several $1 million a day, literally every single day, 7 days a week, costing several $1 million a day. So Boeing's in some challenging space. Those engineers primarily were working on their domestic airline manufacturing. So when you're thinking about planes that are being built for Delta, planes are being built for U.S. Airways, planes are being built for United. That's exactly where this group was working. And that's about 20% of their workforce, give or take, at 33,000. So we're talking about tremendous strain on the business. This is not my commentary on whether the strike's right or wrong, good or bad. I'm just talking about it purely from a financial standpoint, that's a significant strain on the company. So they need some financial flexibility to be able to weather through that, and that's one of the reasons why they made this announcement. Second big announcement that came out here over the last week from Boeing, going to be cutting about 17,000 jobs. 17,000 jobs, about 10% of the workforce. Folks, that's a lot of people. That is a tremendous number of people. Obviously, those jobs are going to be concentrated in places where Boeing has significant manufacturing presence. So you're looking at places like Northwest United States, there in Washington, looking at spaces here as well, perhaps in South Carolina where they have a significant presence. It's definitely going to be high. St. Louis, significantly high on the radar screen. They're out in Missouri as well. Going to be cutting about 10% of the workforce also. So when we're looking at all of that, then we get an announcement from S&P, Standard & Poor's, I would call it very expected in my end of the universe. When this plan was announced to raise this amount of debt and equity, or basically capital, to be able to fund some operations, they came out pretty quickly and said, may happen that we have to downgrade the debt. Now, what does that mean? In downgrading the debt, they're used letters, A being the best, D being the worst. Actually, junk is being the worst. Excuse me. You can go below D, just like you're in school, right? That you can be at a junk status, and they floated the idea that if Boeing moves in this direction and the strike continues for some prolonged period of time beyond what it has been, these little bit more than a month already, they may need to downgrade their debt or their bond issuances to junk. That'd be a big deal. The biggest deal is Boeing would have to pay more interest in order to float additional bonds or to sell additional bonds. So you're talking about a significantly higher expense for Boeing if that happens. Also, whole bunch of funds, whole bunch of foundations, whole bunch of other entities which are required to own investment-grade debt or better. And you can see where I'm going here. So if they're required to own investment-grade debt or better, and they move Boeing from investment-grade to junk bond status, that's going to mean all those entities need to sell those bonds. They're not going to be able to hold on to them per the parameters of those particular investment policy statements. Huge deal. Huge deal. When we're talking about what that means for Boeing, not only in terms of current expense, but also in terms of then flooding the market with a significant amount of their debt that's going to be sold at lower prices. So we're talking about a very, very challenging situation here. I'm spending a fair amount of time on it, primarily because Boeing is so huge. And as a manufacturer, they are the primary manufacturer of airplanes in this country by a country mile. It's not even close. So this is a very, very impactful kind of company now entering the second month on this strike, now needing to raise some additional capital. What's that going to mean for the company ongoing? They had to change out their CEO. They had to change out some other senior personnel, got folks moving around in ways they definitely did not plan or anticipate. It's going to be challenging as we head into the end of the calendar year here. What's this going to mean for them? What's it going to mean for the industry overall? We're going to be watching it. All right, folks, we're going to take a few minutes to hear from our sponsors here on WSIC. Hang with us as we get into the second quarter here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial.
Keep it right here. Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi. We'll return shortly on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
All right, sir.
Well, still a cool day of weather, but plenty of sunshine and less windy than our Wednesday. We climb into the low 60s for most of us this afternoon. Clear and cold again tonight as we drop into the upper 30s around the lake, and a few of the outlying spots and farms could even wake up to mid-30s and some patchy frost for Friday morning. A little bit better, too, a little more pleasant. Sunshine, mid-60s for our Friday. Back to the low 70s over the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like iCats Public Transit.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Lost Worlds Brewing Company in Cornelius presents their Sunday Fun Day on October 20th. Fleetwood Mac tribute band The Chain and Untethered Soul with frontman Nick Prestia take the stage for a day of live music. Lost Worlds Brewing is ready to welcome a big crowd to their back parking lot with a concert stage and sound system from Waves Entertainment. Lost Worlds off West Catawba Avenue in Cornelius presents Sunday Fun Day with an outdoor concert on October 20th. Monthly trivia with the WSIC gang is back at Micaiah's in Mooresville on October 22nd. Join us at Micaiah's off exit 33 from I-77 for Halloween-themed trivia on Tuesday night, October 22nd at 8 p.m. Trivia winners will receive a family 4-pack of tickets to the Renaissance Festival. Have some October spooky season fun with WSIC on-air hosts and try to win Renfest tickets with Halloween trivia Tuesday, October 22nd at Micaiah's in Mooresville. The Dirt Track at Charlotte Motor Speedway presents the World of Outlaws World Finals on the 6th of November through the 9th. Catch Dirt Racing's top 3 series in a title-deciding 4-day showcase of on-track action, featuring the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, the World of Outlaws Late Model Series, and the Super Dirt Car Big Block Modifieds. Single-day and 4-day ticket packages and camping information are all available at charlottemotorspeedway.com. Often imitated, never duplicated. The World of Outlaws World Finals invade the Charlotte Motor Speedway Dirt Track on the 6th of November through the 9th. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
All right, Rich. Let's make it happen.
The Renaissance Festival is back, Saturdays and Sundays, now through November 24th. Jousting, knights, mermaids, fairies, dragons, oh my! Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
Now more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to the second quarter of Here of Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us. As I mentioned, second quarter football reference. We're in the thick of it, folks. It's football season. You may not be a football fan. I get that. I actually heard that from somebody who listens to the show. Not everybody who's listening to you is a football fan. Fair point. But I do have the microphone in front of me here, so we're going to talk a little football. We've got to talk the Panthers for a minute. Are you kidding me? 1-5. 1-5. Now, I like to say often that it's early in the season. It's a little challenging. 6 games in, a little challenging. Little hard to maintain the enthusiasm at this point. I got to say the same thing. Of course, I feel like I'm watching my beloved Pittsburgh Pirates on the baseball end of things as well. A little challenging to be a fan. We'll hope for good things, but 1-5, man. I mean, I hesitate to think, but I do have this thought. Does that mean we're going to be lining up for next year's first pick as well because we have the worst record? And I can't think that all the way. But gosh, it might happen. So we're going to be watching that. We're going to pray for good things for our Panthers. All right, let's keep going here. Second quarter of today's show, we were talking about Boeing. Big deal. Not in a very positive light, unfortunately, with regards to where things are for them as a company right now. What are the kinds of things that they're going to be doing to raise capital, to maintain liquidity? Not very dissimilar to the kinds of things that other folks do when they're going through challenging times. It's going to be interesting to see relative to what their landscape is going to look like as a company here over the next several months. Like I said, the number one manufacturer of airplanes in this country, Airbus, their primary competition, based over there in France. So it's not based here in this country. So there aren't too many folks in that end of the genre of airplane manufacturing, but certainly a big deal and a big employer here in the U.S. All right, let's shift up. Let's go to something that's a little bit happier. All right, we talked Well, we did talk football, but then we talked the Panthers. That wasn't as happy. Let's talk about the happiest place on earth, or at least that's what they say, that it's the happiest place on earth. You may disagree. Well, I'll probably disagree with you as well. But anyhow, it's part of it. Disney, DIS, David Indigo Sam, announced that their next theme, it's not a theme park. It's a part of their overall complex there in Orlando, but it is a standalone entity. And if you're one who follows all things Disney, you probably know where I'm going to go next with regards to, let's call it a new section or a new park within a park, maybe, is the best way to think about it. Universal Epic Universe, which I found to be a little bit redundant, but nobody asked me about that. The Universal Epic Universe, going to be opening in May of next year. And actually, the Universal parks, or the Universal branding, the Universal the construction aspect of things is actually owned by a separate group, meaning a separate publicly traded company, Comcast. You may be familiar with them. Comcast, the huge cable and entertainment provider, also publicly traded company. Those A shares trade under the ticker symbol CMCSA, Charlie Mary, Charlie Sam Alpha. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold their stock either. But they're the ones who have put a significant amount of capital, in addition to Disney, into this Universal Epic Universe. Now, there are going to be several different themes here, so I'm not going to try to touch on all of them. I know Harry Potter is going to be in the mix on things there. Probably some other big names are going to be in there. But it's the first major, let's call it first major park that's been in construction in Orlando in over 25 years. I think 26 years is what I read specifically. 26 years since a park's been built in Orlando. So this is a very, very big deal. And Disney and Comcast, they're going for it. And this is what caught my eye here, and I think you're going to understand why in just a minute. Tickets? Yeah. It's not cheap to go to Disney. It's not cheap to go to any of the parks in Disney. Tickets for this Universal Epic Universe, between $352 and $521 a person. Now, the sell on this, and then you can see me looking a little bit askance if you're watching me live on the socials here. But which, by the way, if you don't have the WSIC app, you can get it. Go to the Apple Store, the Google Store, download that. You can watch us live here, past shows, all that good stuff. Not just dollars and cents, but all the shows here on WSIC. Easy to have. You don't have to worry about a radio signal. It's good stuff. So if you're watching me here live on the socials, you can see I'm, let's call it skeptical. Maybe it's just because I'm not willing to pay between $350 and $520 for a ticket to anything that has to do with Disney per person. You do get 2 other parks. So it's almost a little bit like that one pass that you can buy there. I think it's called the Park Hopper, or at least it was called the Park Hopper at one point, where you can move around to different parks there. So you do get 2 other parks along with that. But my gosh, $352 to $521 a person. You heard me chat about, I know we were talking about Disney, probably 2-3 months ago, and I brought up the story that actually was in the Wall Street Journal that was talking about how the average family that goes, average family of 4 that goes to Disney goes into debt to go to Disney. When I say goes into debt, I mean they're not paying cash for their tickets, for their lodging, for their eating, that they have as much, or on estimate from Disney themselves, between $1,500 and $2,000 in debt after going to Disney. Very, very interesting phenomenon. I can't imagine what it's going to be for something like this. I mean, what do the normal park passes cost? $100, $125, $150 a piece? Twice that? 3 times that, depending upon which day that you go to this new park. And obviously there's anticipation that there's going to be a significant amount of demand there. But wow. Pricing on that, and it's, again, coming in May of next year, May of 2025. In addition to the park, there are going to be 3 new hotels, other food, and other kinds of options there. So it's going to be the real deal to go to it. But boy, that's a lot. That takes an already expensive place even more expensive in my end of the universe. So I was kind of surprised to see that. We'll see if Disney and Comcast can make it happen on ongoing there. All right. This one's pretty serious, and especially, and I'm saying it's serious, especially because of our folks in Western North Carolina, Northern Georgia, Eastern Tennessee, and also mid-state Florida, who have all gone through very significant hurricane damage. And just talking here for just a moment, on some news that came out, discouraging, but it looks like there's a pathway where it is going to be addressed, and that's specifically with regard to the disaster loan programs from the SBA, or Small Business Administration. If you don't know, Small Business Administration, which, by the way, you can take a look at them online, government agency, sba.gov. That's SBA, Sam Bravo Alpha, Granny Oscar Victor. That's where you find them online. That you take a look at them there. Government agency that specifically helps out small businesses with loans. And then what I'm talking about here, disaster relief programs, meaning that when disaster hits, there are specific funding programs to help with low interest loans and other grant opportunities for small businesses. Well, the word came out, unfortunately, that the funding under the current budget, or specifically under the current CR, the continuing resolution, has dried up. And that was pretty discouraging, especially for our folks, again, in northern Georgia, western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, mid-state Florida. Congress is going to have to approve, and they have given indications through their spokespersons that they are going to approve extensions of funding for that. The challenging part is Congress isn't slated to get back into session until the 12th of November. They're on recess right now. There's been some call for them to get called back into an emergency session or an early session. It hasn't happened yet. What I want to say is, A, I want to make you aware of it, but then B, and this is actually from the SBA themselves, keep applying, meaning don't wait to apply until after Congress gets back in session. While you may not get your funding right away, what you will get is your place in line of getting your application reviewed. So if you are one who is looking at one of these disaster relief programs through the SBA because of damage that your small business sustained because of the storms and the hurricanes, please, please, please continue to apply. Very, very big deal. And again, it's not because, unfortunately, the funding is going to move any faster, but you do get your place in line in terms of having your application reviewed. So make sure, please, make sure that you submit that application. Do not wait until Congress gets back in session because at least as the trajectory looks at this point, as they get back into session, they are going to approve funding. Whenever that may be that they get back into session, as that funding gets approved, those applications are going to get approved and move forward. Want very much for you to be at the front of that line as much as you can be by the time that process gets moving again. So I know frustrating in terms of that kind of news. It was disheartening to hear because I know so many folks are challenged right now with regards to all kinds of programs that have to do with federal and state level funding. But please continue to apply, specifically on the SBA end of things. And again, that's a federal program, Small Business Administration, federal program. Again, their website, Sam Bravo Alpha at Granny Oscar Victor, SBA.gov. That's where you find the Small Business Association. All right, let's keep going here. Some not very encouraging news, and I've talked about them before. I know they were talking about them on Good Morning LKN a little bit here as well, which, by the way, Good Morning LKN, 7 to 9 in the morning, Monday to Friday. You got Justin, Bill, and Mamie on there. They're giving you good stuff in addition to making you chuckle. At least they make me chuckle whenever I'm listening to them in the morning. So make sure 7 to 9 every morning, Monday to Friday, to hear them. They were talking about this a little bit. Want to mention it as well. I've mentioned them previously with regards to some of their restructuring, and now they're moving forward with some significant number of store closures. Walgreens. Publicly traded company, ticker symbol is Water Bravo Alpha, WBA. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Announced they're going to be closing about 1,200 stores, 1,200 stores. A lot of stores, folks. They got about 8,000 stores overall. So just doing the really quick math on there, about 1 out of every 6 or 7 stores is going to be closed. So you want to be mindful of that. If you're a Walgreens person, if you're the person who has your prescriptions through Walgreens, not saying that your store is going to close, but be mindful of it if it does, so that you make sure that you shift where you get your prescriptions to another source. That's very, very important. 1,200 stores Walgreens is going to be closing here over the course of the next year or two, it looks like at this point. So it's going to be moving relatively quickly as they go through some restructuring kind of space. Kind of challenging. They've been in a challenging space for a long time. This really is the next phase of them addressing that so that they can hopefully get back on better financial footing. All right, folks, we're going to take a few seconds here as we again hear from our sponsors on WSIC. Hang with us as we get into the second half here on Dollars and Cents.
There's more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on the way from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, still a cool day of weather, but plenty of sunshine and less windy than our Wednesday. We climb into the low 60s for most of us this afternoon. Clear and cold again tonight as we drop into the upper 30s around the lake, and a few of the outlying spots and farms could even wake up to mid-30s and some patchy frost for Friday morning. A little bit better, too, a little more pleasant. Sunshine, mid-60s for our Friday. Back to the low 70s over the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Legendary music icon Jim Messina from Loggins in Messina, Poco, and Buffalo Springfield is playing live on Thursday, October 17th at 7 p.m. at Cain Center for the Arts. Learn more at cainarts.org. That's C-A-I-N arts.org.
Family, quality, value. With a legacy of excellence for over 40 years, Horn Heating and Air Conditioning will make your house feel like a home. Welcome home to the feeling of HornHVAC.com.
Make your work easier with Eagle Rentals of Troutman and Statesville. Eagle Rentals has generators, heaters, fans, painting equipment, floor care equipment, pressure washers, lighting equipment, and lawn care equipment. Plus, Eagle Rentals has construction equipment like forklifts, bobcat loaders, backhoes, excavators, and more. Reserve online at EagleRentals.com. That's EagleRentals.com.
DrumLandscapeSupply.com. DrumLandscapeSupply.com. DrumLandscapeSupply.com.
Honey, what are you doing?
Oh, I figured if I rubbed my lawn and said DrumLandscapeSupply.com, I'd have the dream lawn I've always wanted.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Just minutes to go ahead of Wall Street's closing bell, and the Dow on track to notch another fresh record closing high. Right now, that blue chip index up over 100 points, about 1/3% higher. The NASDAQ up a small fraction. The S&P 500 is flat. Now, those gains come after larger than forecast retail spending last month as consumers spent more at restaurants, at florists, pet stores, clothing stores, and more. Gas station revenue was down, but only because prices at the pump were lower. Auto sales pretty much flat. Shares of Uber right now down more than 2%. The Financial Times reported the ride-hailing service explored a bid to acquire the online travel booking site Expedia. No formal offer was made. No talks are ongoing right now. And Harvard University is warning its students it may have to charge them more because of a 15% slump in alumni donations. That's after the school's mishandling of anti-Semitic incidents on campus this past year. Tom Busby, Bloomberg Radio.
It's Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you much for hanging here into the second half football reference of today's show. Appreciate you spending the time. Again, if you're a 9-to-5er, you got 26 minutes and 22 seconds now until you get to that 5 o'clock bell. Make sure you sprint through the tape. No giving up. No shortchanging it. You're getting paid to 5. You work to 5. And I appreciate as you're doing that you're spending time with us here as we're giving attention to all things financial and economic, again, here on Dollars and Cents. Now, we talked, just as we were going to close there, we talked about a couple of negative things. We're talking about some challenges with funding with the SBA, the Small Business Association. Talked about Walgreens going through some restructuring here. Let's pivot a little bit. Let's do something that may put a little bit more of a smile on your face. And so what's a good way to put smile on your face? Talk about, food. And specifically, if we're looking at food, let's talk donuts. I mean, I don't know how you can be unhappy thinking about donuts. And I'm going to go to one. It's a publicly traded company. It's one here in the Carolinas. We certainly are very familiar with it around here. It is Krispy Kreme, publicly traded company, as I mentioned. And listen to this ticker symbol. You'll love it. It's David Nancy Umbrella Tom, DNUT. Go ahead, sound it out. Donut. I mean, that's a great kind of ticker symbol to have. That's literally what they have here. Well, the word is out, and I was unaware of this. So there are always collaborations going on between different companies, different manufacturers doing different things. I had not heard this until I came across it as part of my research for the show this week. that apparently Krispy Kreme has come to some kind of collaboration agreement with McDonald's. McDonald's, the ubiquitous name, publicly traded company, of course. Mary Charlie Daniels. There's a little musical reference for you, for all you folks with gray hair. Mary Charlie Daniels, MCD, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold McDonald's or Krispy Kreme stock, but a collaboration. They're not in all locations, so I do have to clarify this. Don't just go storming into every McDonald's expecting it. They're going to start offering Krispy Kreme donuts in some McDonald's. Yeah. I mean, and again, the little test market kind of stuff. A lot of it's happening out there in the Midwest, which it often is in the Chicagoland area, because worldwide headquarters for McDonald's is still in Schaumburg, which is just outside of Chicago there. That they're going to be offering a lot out there, but it's at upwards of 10,000 locations across the country. So it could happen that it's going to happen at a McDonald's close to you. I want you to be on the lookout for it, though. I mean, are you kidding me? Big Mac in one hand, Krispy Kreme in the other. I mean, that's count me in. That's that. You don't need to twist my arm. I'm all in for that kind of stuff. So Krispy Kreme and McDonald's looking at collaboration. We're going to stick on the food thing. Going to go to another one. Publicly. Well, this particular entity is not publicly traded. The parent company is publicly traded. You hear me talk about them a lot because they own so many labels as well. Popeyes Chicken. Popeyes owned by Restaurant Brands International, RBI, Roger Bravo Indian. Again, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold Restaurant Brands stock, but Popeyes, one of the many brands, one of the many labels that Restaurant Brands owns. Popeyes is going to be coming out because we're getting into the Thanksgiving season here. I'm not trying to rush by the end of Halloween or anything, but they're going to be offering up a Cajun-style turkey. So if you don't want to be doing the turkey at home, you want to get your turkey from Popeyes, you got to pre-order it. You got to call them up in advance. And at some locations, found this out as well, they'll even deliver it to you. I don't know. I mean, I think about all the kinds of things that I like to do, or maybe more specifically don't like to do when it comes to the Thanksgiving holiday, meaning I don't like to move very much when it comes to the Thanksgiving holiday. Ordering the turkey and having it delivered to the house doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. Cajun-style turkey going to be offered up by Popeyes. Again, Popeyes owned by Restaurant Brands International, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Kind of interesting. You know, you see those kinds of things, right? They're trying to broaden the base a little bit. I mean, that's not something that they usually offer over there. You don't usually think of Krispy Kreme donuts and McDonald's, either a little bit different, right? But, you know, companies are always trying to expand their sales, always trying to increase the amount of spend that you make at those particular restaurants. And certainly looks like McDonald's, looks like Popeyes trying to do just that in expanding their offerings here, seeing how it works. I dare say if it's going to be successful, we'll probably see it again. It probably won't be going too far away. All right, let's pivot a little bit of academia here when we're looking at the interest rate end of the universe. Going to talk about the ECB. And when you talk about ECB, in my end of the world, that's European Central Bank. 20 members of the European Union who are members of the ECB, European Central Bank, governing the euro, the currency, the euro. The ECB, again, for the first time in over a decade, back-to-back meetings cut their overnight lending rate to their member banks or to the member institutions, very similar to the Federal Reserve here in the U.S. That's now the third reduction in 4 meetings. So they're a little bit ahead of us. We just had our first one here with the Federal Reserve. First cut, although we made a bigger than expected cut by the Federal Reserve with 50 basis points instead of 25 basis points. ECB cutting again. Now, what's kind of interesting about this to me, this is a little bit of a sidebar, my commentary on it. The inflation indicators throughout those 20 countries that are part of the ECB, the European Central Bank, the inflation indicators were below 2%. In their 2 most recent readings, 1.7%. Their target, a little bit like the Federal Reserve, was noted at 2%. I'm a little curious as to why they're continuing to cut rates. And this is my commentary here. So this is now we're moving on from the academic end of things to my commentary. A little curious why they're continuing to cut rates. What's the reason to cut rates? Usually the reason why we're cutting rates is because of hyperinflation or inflation above target, and also some significant slowdown in our economy. Neither one of those appears to be true among the collection when you look at everything inside of the ECB or the 20 countries that make up the ECB. Not really sure why that they decided to cut rates again, except they did. Certainly seems to be a theme. The Federal Reserve here in the U.S. has, I would say, all but promised that we're going to be seeing some additional rate cut possibilities, perhaps as soon as the November meeting coming up here in a couple of weeks. No meeting, by the way, of the Federal Reserve here in the U.S. in October. So it could happen in November, could happen again in December. A lot of speculation in the futures markets that that's going to indeed be the case. Kind of interesting, because if we are indeed data-driven, we, meaning the Federal Reserve, are indeed data-driven, and the data indicates that, or the data are indicative of the fact that we don't need a cut, why continue to cut? Kind of interesting. We'll talk more about it. But I wanted to let you know that ECB cut rates again. It's going to make it, again, a lower cost of capital for folks who are doing business in the ECB. That tends to be stimulative for the economy. We'll see if it will, again, continue to stimulate on that end of things. Speaking of stimulation, I know you don't want to talk about this maybe yet. Got to do it. I think Mamie was saying on Good Morning LKN that she was in a store and they already had Christmas decorations out. That made me a little queasy too. Maybe it's too. We're not even at Halloween yet, right? And we still got a week or two before Halloween, and we're already into Christmas decorations. Too fast. Anyhow, but along those lines, along the Christmas end of things, my end of the universe here on Dollars and Cents, definitely looking at what the consumer is going to be doing, how they're going to be spending for the Christmas retail season. You've heard me say this now for the last several weeks. Definitely on my radar screen as an indication, not a binary indication, but definitely an indication about where the consumer is. Consumer being 2/3 to 3/4 of our economy. Very, very important what their confidence level is and their willingness to spend, especially on discretionary items like Christmas. So we got a report from the National Retail Federation, the largest trade organization for retail stores here in the U.S. Got a report from them, took a survey among some of the chief executives of some of the largest retail outlets in the country, got some data back. There is anticipation overall, not every store, not every retail space, of an increase in spending by the results of this survey, which were taken again from C-suite folks in many of our largest retail spaces, that there would be an increase in spending this year over last year. The anticipation is between 2.5% and 3.5% of increase. That's notable, folks. That's and you can hear it by the tone of my voice if you're watching on the socials here, the WSIC studios. That's some surprising. Definitely wasn't anticipating that retailers were in that kind of space. As a matter of fact, some of the contra data that I've seen relative to the purchasing structures for some of our retail spaces, maybe a little bit more modest. Maybe that's changed now. Maybe there's some other data out there that are indicating the consumer is, in fact, a little bit stronger than what we've been talking about previously. I found that to be surprising. I'm hopeful. Sounds great. I want for the Christmas retail season to be strong. I want the consumer to be strong in going into it, obviously to have a good level of confidence. But I anticipated with higher interest rates and with other, let's call them more expensive liens on the day-to-day, month-to-month budgets for most of our folks here in the U.S., that was going to be a slowdown indicator, that there was going to be some pullback. But at least at this point, now nothing's real until it's real. We'll get the real data going into January and February as we do a look back. But that these folks whose business it is to anticipate what the consumer is going to do and where the consumer is going to spend, having that much confidence of a 2.5% to 3.5% increase in spend on Christmas retail here year over year, I thought that was notable. And I thought that was notable in a positive kind of way. And so we're going to be watching that very, very closely. Those data points actually kind of jumped off the page to me a little bit when I saw the survey results, because I was anticipating something much more modest, something much more like a flat line. Not necessarily a pullback, maybe a pullback, but something closer to a flat line of spend, meaning comparing it year over year. But the indication of 2.5% to 3.5% growth, that would be notable. That would be great for the retail space. That would be great in terms of an indication for the strength of the consumer. By the way, sidebar, part of that 2.5% to 3.5%, obviously the continued growth of online spend for all things that have to do with Christmas retail, that's anticipated to grow 8% to 9%. I feel like I've been saying that every year about online spending for Christmas. It just keeps going up. Of course, I can't argue with you. I mean, if you could just go onto Amazon and you could just go through your whole Christmas list while you're watching your favorite show, probably on Amazon, in the evening while you're watching television, not a bad way to go. All right, hang with us here. We're going to hear from our sponsors here on WSIC, coming up with the fourth quarter here on Dollars and Cents.
Dollars and Cents with your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi, continues straight ahead on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
We're getting cold again tonight under a clear sky. Most of us around the lake drop into the upper 30s. A few spots in the outlying areas and farms could see the mid-30s and patchy frost again by early Friday morning. Sunshine is back. We get a little more pleasant heading into the weekend. Upper 60s for our Friday. Low 70s are back heading into the upcoming weekend. And that's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Lost Worlds Brewing Company in Cornelius presents their Sunday Fun Day on October 20th. Fleetwood Mac tribute band The Chain and Untethered Soul with frontman Nick Prestia take the stage for a day of live music. Lost Worlds Brewing is ready to welcome a big crowd to their back parking lot with a concert stage and sound system from Waves Entertainment. Lost Worlds off West Catawba Avenue in Cornelius presents Sunday Fun Day with an outdoor concert on October 20th. Monthly trivia with the WSIC gang is back at Micaiah's in Mooresville on October 22nd. Join us at Micaiah's off exit 33 from I-77 for Halloween-themed trivia on Tuesday night, October 22nd at 8 p.m. Trivia winners will receive a family 4-pack of tickets to the Renaissance Festival. Have some October spooky season fun with WSIC on-air hosts and try to win Renfest tickets with Halloween trivia Tuesday, October 22nd at Micaiah's in Mooresville. The Dirt Track at Charlotte Motor Speedway presents the World of Outlaws World Finals on the 6th of November through the 9th. Catch Dirt Racing's top 3 series in a title-deciding 4-day showcase of on-track action, featuring the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, the World of Outlaws Late Model Series, and the Super Dirt Car Big Block Modifieds. Single-day and 4-day ticket packages and camping information are all available at charlottemotorspeedway.com. Often imitated, never duplicated. The World of Outlaws World Finals invade the Charlotte Motor Speedway Dirt Track on the 6th of November through the 9th. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays, now through November 24th. Jousting, knights, mermaids, fairies, dragons, oh my! Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
We're back now with more of Dollars and Cents with your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you for hanging with us here. Fourth quarter football reference in today's show. Appreciate you hanging with us as we get the sprint run towards the end of today's show. As we were talking about, we were going to break there. We're talking about some things that are a little bit more fun. I felt like I was being a little bit dour in the early parts of the show. I got to talk about the big stuff that's happening, even if it's not particularly possible. I got one more here. It has to do with food. Yeah, you betcha. When we're talking about fun stuff, it has to do. I'm laughing at this. When I saw this as I was doing my research, I guess I was laughing when I was doing my research because I could absolutely see myself utilizing this. Yeah, you'll understand why in here in a second. All right, Burger King. Burger King, owned by Yum Brands and by RBI as well, by Restaurant Brands International, and also a part of that group with Popeyes and a collection of others, Tim Hortons and others that are part of RBI. Just announced that they are introducing something called the Big Dip Cup. Now, don't say that too fast. That's why I was very slow and intentional of saying the Big Dip Cup. Now, what it is, it's in a collaboration. See again, Hidden Valley Ranch, one of the top condiments in the country, literally in terms of the volume of usage. Ranch dressing for everything. You know where I'm going with this. They now have the Big Dip Cup that they are offering with Hidden Valley Ranch in it, where you can dip your Burger King sandwiches in it. I mean, holy smokes. What a country. It's amazing. I mean, literally, so a lot of folks do that. I know folks who do that with pizza. I know folks who do that with other interesting things like ice cream. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out there with ranch dressing. But this one, you can literally get the Big Dip Cup, and you can dip your Burger King sandwiches. You got a quarter pounder, or not a quarter pounder, excuse me, but Whopper with your Big Dip Cup, and That might be it. I don't know. You put a Krispy Kreme in my other hand, just leave me in a dark room. You can come back about a week later, and I'm still going to be smiling. So, right, big dip cup with Burger King there, and it's all right. Let's get on to the markets here. I know that's what you're waiting for in the fourth quarter of each show. Very, I would call it modest kinds of movements in the market here recently. When I say modest, it's not because there aren't ups and downs. It's not because there aren't companies that are doing very, very well and other companies which are doing very, very poorly. But overall, in terms of the intensity of movement, so we measure that at North Main through things like volatility, or we're watching things like currency movements, and not only currency movements, but the speed of currency movements when we're watching things financial and what's happening around us market-wise. Pretty quiet. And I say that not to get casual and not because I necessarily think that there's a reason that we should be so casual and quiet, but relatively speaking, we are right now. So there hasn't been a lot of movement, either positive or negative here, for about the last couple of months when you look at where we've been. A little bit of positive movement when you look at it the last month specifically, but as measured by our most popular indices, by the way, but not a whole lot of very clear indication one way or the other. So what does that mean? I mean, we're getting close here. I mean, we're in the fourth quarter, folks. When I say fourth quarter, talk about the calendar fourth quarter as we're looking towards the end of the year. I mean, we're more than halfway through October, ready or not. So we got 2.5 months of sprint here. And of course, we got all the holidays, all the big holidays kind of stuffed in at the end. So you're going to get folks who are going to be traveling. The markets get a little bit quieter. Sometimes we get into Thanksgiving and Christmas as well. What does that mean market-wise for the end? Well, you've heard me say several times now. I talked about it earlier in the show also with regards to the Christmas retail season, that being an indication about where the consumer is. Markets watch that as well. That will probably have some indication about how markets perform here for the rest of the year. I shared the National Retail Federation survey results indicating that they believe there's going to be a 2.5% to 3.5% increase overall in retail spend for the Christmas season. Surprising to me that there was that much anticipation by the members of the NRF. We'll have to watch it and see if that's actually going to matriculate, but that should bleed into some positive movements in the markets overall. Doesn't mean every company is going to be positive. Doesn't mean that every company is going to do well. It doesn't mean every retail space is going to do well. But overall, when we're looking at it at this point, not a lot of indications of negative volatility. Now, I say all of that, so I do all the glass half full stuff first, right? Then I look at it and say, well, then that means we need to be ready. Or at least we need to be cautious. Not because I'm just looking at it as a counter indicator of where things are, but rather to be vigilant. It's when we get casual and comfortable that things can sneak up on us and do us some financial pain, which maybe could have been avoided or at least mitigated if we were paying attention in closer ways. So I am watching for that. Frankly, when everybody, and I'm putting that in the proverbial air quotes, if you're watching me on the socials here, when everybody thinks that everything is going well, and I'm putting all that in the proverbial air quotes, then that for me is an indication you better watch your six. You better watch what's coming around the corner, because that tends to be the space where the market gets shocked the easiest. Now, I don't have anything in particular in my bag of tricks here that I'm going to pull out and say, well, this is what it's going to be, or I have some secret knowledge that nobody else has. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying be vigilant. Be mindful of the things that, frankly, inside of your portfolio, if you've had a very positive year, have done very well, especially if you're in large cap technology. Not all companies, but certainly many companies in that space have done very, very well. Now, if you own a lot of oil companies, you're probably looking at it saying, well, shoot, it hasn't been all that great of a year at all. As a matter of fact, it's been a negative year, especially if you own companies like BP Amoco or something similar. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold BP, ticker symbol Bravo Paul. But when we're looking at it relative to what we can expect, it's not true as much as we would like for it to be true. And it's certainly true in this space. And when we look at what we can expect, it's unnatural to expect that the very good performance that we've seen from certain parts of the markets will continue ad infinitum. And you may say, well, I know that. I know nothing goes straight up forever. Okay, that's good. Except when I watch what happens in the markets and where new money goes, it is constantly flowing to those companies which have done the best. Now, a little news flash, folks. I'm not saying those things can't continue to appreciate, but you're buying them after they've had a huge run, right? And so, again, I'm not saying that they can't continue to grow, but nothing moves in a straight line forever. I'm going to say it again, even a little slower. Nothing moves in a straight line forever. That's true in the positive direction. That's true in the negative direction. But we as a market do the same things every single cycle. We do it. And I get it. It's groupthink. It's what pulses through our media airwaves. You got goofy people like me who are spouting off into a microphone and staring into a camera doing that kind of stuff. This is where you need to be cautious, folks. This is where you need to be mindful. If you have something that's up 60, 70, 80, 100% more in a year, maybe consider trimming it a little bit. Maybe consider taking some of that proverbial cream off the top. Maybe stash it into something that doesn't go down when the market goes down. I may be wrong. That's not a recommendation. Everybody's situation is unique, but that's risk management. I'll put it this way. Generally speaking, one of the best times to sell is when everybody wants to buy. Converse of that is also true. One of the best times to buy is when everybody else wants to sell. Warren Buffett actually gave the analogy. You probably heard this. Warren Buffett, the famed investor, chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, said at one point, he used this metaphor. He said, when everybody's screaming to get out of the burning building, you should be the one who is prying yourself trying to get in. And there's some truth to that. It's not true for every company. It's not true for every market scenario, certainly. But his point was a little bit like what I'm making my point here, that being a contra investor or a contra indicator to what the overall market is saying, sometimes, especially after prolonged movement in a singular direction, whether that be positive or negative, can be wise to consider. Now, does that mean that you'll miss out on possible upside on some of your winners? Yes. Absolutely, it is possible. Is it also possible that you may mitigate some downside in a significant pullback scenario? Yes, also possible. It's risk management, folks. That's what we're doing here. Nobody can predict. Nobody can tell you in advance what's going to happen. But if you're a bird in the hand kind of guy like I am, and we're above expectation for a notable period of time, I tend to be the kind of person that wants to scrape some of the cream off the top and just put that in a bottle and set it on the side for a while. And then, as things pull back, here's the other side of it. Maybe go back in and buy those same things a little bit cheaper. I think that's what we're supposed to do, right? Follow this with me, isn't it? Buy low, sell high. I know you've heard that before. I know you've heard it from me before. If you've been listening to this show longer than about 10 minutes, that it is. Now, again, in saying that, I'm not saying that the market from where we sit is teed up for this huge pullback. I'm not saying that at all. What I do know, though, of almost 3 decades of doing this, that when things have been going particularly well, especially with a particular segment of the market for a prolonged period of time, folks, there is eventually a reversion to the mean. That doesn't mean that everything's going to fall back 40%, but there is a cooling off period. At a certain point, the market runs out of buyers. No matter what the price is, no matter how good everything has been moving, at a certain point, the market runs out of buyers. And when that happens, and when sellers outnumber the buyers, follow with me here, right? Sellers are going to win. And when sellers are outnumbering buyers for a prolonged period of time, then you're going to have a prolonged pullback. Not saying that's what's going to happen here. I'm saying just keep that on your radar screen. Sometimes when I'm having these kinds of conversations with folks, we got really short memories. We really do. I mean, I talk about 2022. By the way, 2022, just 2 years ago. Wasn't all that long ago. Market was miserable. I don't know if you track it at all, if you're a market historian in any way, shape, or form. But when we're looking at 2022, market was miserable. It really was. Most popular indices down 15, 20%. I mean, it was awful as measured by our most popular indices. Doesn't mean everything was bad, but it means that our most popular stock indices were pretty miserable in 2022. Golly, I start talking about that and you think I'm talking about something before the American Revolution. I mean, it's amazing how folks have such short memories, especially when things that they have been either going down or going up positively or negatively for some measure of time. And I'm starting to see that again. So my word to you today, as you're looking at your portfolio, as you're watching the markets, be cautious. Doesn't mean you can't buy the stuff that's done well, but be cautious if you do. And as you're doing that, make sure you're aligned with your goals. Friends, as always, it's good to be with you here on Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. Tune in with us next Thursday again here at 4 on WSIC.
Serving you better than